Let's go to prayer. Ask God to bless this time. Father, I'm always humbled and encouraged by seeing 60 to 70 college students on a Friday night together because they want to praise you, they want to learn more about you from your word, they want to grow in their relationship with you, and they want to look more like you. I'm deeply grateful to get to share this time with them, and deeply grateful to get to learn with them from your word. And I pray, Father, that as we talk about words in general, that you would guide mine, that when we leave tonight, that it's your words that ring most true in our hearts, and that it would be your words that bring change to our lives. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So, I'm not sure if it's been explicit yet, but the Vine this term, we've been focusing generally on community. I don't know, has that been kind of obvious? But as I've been thinking about community, I think there are a few things that can tear down community or build it up more than the use of our words. I think words are very powerful. The Bible begins with God speaking, right? He could have thought the world into existence, but he chose to speak it into existence. So words are very powerful and they are lasting. And then in Genesis 3, with the serpent, right, we see words take a very dark turn with, did God really say, ... So taking a very problematic turn, now words can be used for evil. And so we apparently utter something like 16,000 words a day. And that's 16,000 opportunities to speak evil or to speak good. And if you're following this election going on, many of us are getting very tired of it, we all have seen how words can get you into big trouble. So I really want to talk about the sin of the tongue. That is the sin of our speech specifically. And I think it's because I think it's one of the most inconspicuous and overlooked sins in the church. We kind of turn a blind eye to it in the church. And I think part of it is we don't really think about what it is and what it means. So it's a lot more dangerous than we realize. I forgot to put up my full slide. So this is called Keep Your Bible Holy, the Biblical Examination on Taming the Tongue. I'm going to thank my husband for the first part, because he's the funny one between us. And that, I'll do this for the second part. So, funny and then reverent going on. So, taming the tongue. If you're familiar with the book of James, James speaks a lot, extensively about the dangers of the tongue. And he mentions that it's a very small member of the body, but it's very mighty, right? He likens it to a bit in the mouth of a horse, a rudder on a ship, or a spark that ignites a forest fire, right? So it's very small, but it has great influence over others. And the tongue is one of our greatest weapons, but it's really like a double-edged sword. It can be wielded in very conflicting ways, right? It has both the power to hurt and the power to heal. And the Bible is not shy about talking about our words. Actually, it's all over Scripture. I had to really hold back, and Chase was like, you can see also, list all the Bible verses if you want, so I don't keep you here all night. But the Bible speaks extensively about our speech, so I think it's very important that we pay attention to it. So we're going to look at some harmful uses of the tongue, mainly gossip, because I think this is probably one of the biggest cancers of the church is gossip. So let's talk about gossip and what gossip is. I would say gossip is sharing confidential information about another's behavior or personal life with someone who doesn't need to know. And of course, I have to include the Greek here. In the Greek, it's to hiss or whisper. Sometimes it means to babble, suggesting that gossip is empty, pointless talk, often not completely factual either. And if you go to Timothy or Titus, they talk about malicious gossips. And actually the word can be translated from the root of diabolo, which is devil. So it's a compound word meaning to throw something against someone. I thought that was shocking and provocative, thinking about gossip being like a devil, essentially. So that is gossip. And then another form of gossip is slander. And slander is sharing false information about another in order to damage his or her reputation. It's evil speech. It's backbiting. So when one is sharing the info, someone knows about someone, but it's not completely true, and his motive is to damage another person, it moves from gossip to slander. Now, I've been thinking about the different disguises that gossip takes, and I think that it can come in a few different forms. I know I've been guilty of the whole, I got a prayer request, right? Sharing information about someone in the form of a prayer request. It feigns having concern for a person while really there are impure motives behind it. So be careful with the use of prayer requests and think through, okay, is this really a prayer request? Do I have this person's best interest in mind? In the South, another version would be, oh, bless her heart, right? Bless his heart. That's a disguise for gossip, an excuse to say something about someone. Another one we use is you want someone to process with. Be careful with this one. Is this really what you need to do? Do you need to talk about this person when you're processing? And just a side note on that, processing isn't necessarily bad, but be careful about, okay, do I need to use this person's name? Does this person need all this information? And if you're processing with one of us or another mentor or a pastor about a situation, and you really want to know how to handle it well, just be thoughtful about how you share that information. I think another way that we do a lot, is venting. You feel the right to unload on someone everything that's going wrong in your life or a person who's been irritating you. And so we use venting as kind of a disguise to gossip. Another interesting thing I was thinking about is gossip baiting. I didn't know that was an actual term. But when you're talking to someone and you kind of want them to dish some information about someone, so you start kind of subtly dropping here and there or something to get them to open up about a person. So those are some gossip disguises. The question is, why do we do it? Why do we gossip? This proverb, I'm going to speak a lot from Proverbs because they're just common sense wisdom, good wisdom, and short, pithy statements so that we can remember them easily. And Proverbs speaks tons about gossip because it speaks a lot about how we are to be wise. So why do we gossip? I remember if I have. Yes. So Proverbs 18:8, the words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body. I think that aptly describes why we often call gossip juicy gossip, right? Very tempting about it. There's a reason why there's a whole industry on celebrity gossip. You can't go through a grocery store aisle without being bombarded with celebrity gossip. Why do we need to know so much about the Kardashians? We know way too much about their lives, or celebrities' divorces or affairs. Things that we don't need to know, but for some reason it's so compelling. It's so tempting. So I'd love to hear some other reasons you think that people gossip. What is the motivation behind gossip, you think? Audience participation.
Sometimes when you hear about other people's sins, it almost makes you false sense of, oh, that's what I'm doing is not that bad.
Right, yes. When you're talking about other people's sins, maybe it makes you feel like yours are less so, or you feel a little better about yourself. Yeah?
I think it can be a way to show off your knowledge of the community if you have all of these, secrets about people's lives.
Knowledge is power, right? For some reason we feel powerful if we know stuff about people. Yeah.
Let's say gossip or control the conversation.
You can control the conversation?
Yeah, like you have information the other person doesn't have, but because of some ties in you, it's unique to you, which makes you the center of attention.
Center of attention, that's good. I didn't think to put that up there. This is why I'm doing this, because I'm sure there's many to miss. There are many things. Any other ideas why people gossip?
I think kind of similar to Rachel's. Sometimes it's not even like trying to justify your sins. It's like kind of trying to live vicariously. Like you want to hear about what all the bad things that other people are doing, so you can be like, oh wow, like I'm really glad that I'm not doing that, but like that's so cool, kind of thing. Sometimes.
Living vicariously. That could be also jealousy.
Yeah.
Too. Jealousy. Oh, you first.
Well, gossip is usually interesting to people.
Interesting, intriguing. Yeah.
You can deflect your sin.
Deflect your sin. Yeah, kind of what Rachel was talking about.
It's just like really easy to do. So if you sort of have a lull in the conversation and like somebody's not talking, gossip is always like something. It's easy to fall into it. Like it's an easy topic to talk about, and everyone can do it.
Easy, yeah, and maybe on a flip side of attention, center of attention, you can deflect attention from yourself in general. Yeah.
I think, especially in regards to like celebrity gossip, it's just entertaining in general to see what different people are doing, and sometimes you feel like almost you have like a right to know.
Yeah, right to know. Interesting. Entertaining. Yeah, those are all really good. So pretty much I listed most of those. The having knowledge about someone makes us feel powerful. Jealousy. Oh, and this is one that I thought about. That often we're looking to create a bond with people by finding a ground that you share. Does that make sense? You connect over something or someone. You want to create that bond. And then to conceal our own unrighteousness by focusing on another's. So, interestingly, I did a little reading on what I guess people are saying about gossip today and whether it's painted in a positive light or a negative light. But according to Psychology Today, they say that gossip can actually be thought of not as a character flaw, but as a highly evolved social skill. They say that those who can't do it well often have difficulty maintaining relationships and can find themselves on the outside looking in. So essentially, like the third point on here, they're painting the third point in a positive light. Like this is how you form community. That's very shocking. So they also chalk it up to a byproduct of our prehistoric brain. Which is very contrary to the Bible, right? The Bible is not naive, and neither should we be to the fact that it's not a byproduct of our brain, it's the sinful heart, it's the sinful nature. So, whereas Psychology Today claims that not participating in gossip leads to social isolation, they fail to consider that not gossiping at all would eliminate social isolation and bullying considerably. I mean, that seems obvious, but apparently it's not. 17th century French philosopher Blaise Pascal disagreed with this modern social scientist view of gossip. He wrote, "I maintain that if everyone knew what others said about him, there would be not 4 friends in the world." Pretty sad thought. So, like I was saying, the Bible gives us the root cause of such speech. Jesus says it is a state of our heart, right? That is, as we've been talking about Mark, Jesus says it's not what goes into a person that defiles him, right? But what comes out of that person. It begins in the heart. And that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So the mouth is an opening that vents the heart, right? And so if there is bad stuff in our heart, bad stuff comes out. An interesting thought too is that I think oftentimes gossip comes from a place of believing a lie, either about God or yourself, that leads you to an insecurity, that leads you to feeling the need to gossip. So it all begins in the heart. But let's talk about the destruction of gossip. What does gossip actually do? Why is it destructive? First reason, I think, is that it ruins friendships. It separates close friends, and ultimately it destroys community. So I love these proverbs here. Proverbs 16:8, a dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. Remember, a whisperer is another word for a gossiper. Whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats the matter separates close friends. Second reason, similarly, is gossip destroys trust. So whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, therefore do not associate with a simple babbler. A babbler being someone who's loose and careless with their words. And then the other one, similarly, whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps us being covered. Has anyone ever heard the phrase, secrets are no fun, secrets hurt someone? Thinking about this, I think it's not necessarily secrets that hurt us, it's the sharing of those secrets. Unless the secret is about another person, right? But something that brings intimacy and growth in a friendship is the vulnerability, right? The willingness to share something deep and hard about yourself with another person. And it's actually the uncovering of those secrets with someone else that is destructive. And so an example of this is a while ago, I had a situation with two friends. One friend shared with me that the other friend had received a job offer, which is very exciting. Gossip can be good things, right? It can be about good things. But this other friend found out, and it was really devastating to both her friendship and her friendship with me. And the reason was, it was a secret that she had shared in confidence. That was not this other friend's place to tell. Part of the reason was she didn't want her current coworkers to find out that she had another job offer. And so it just was real eye-opening to me to see how secrets, even if they're good, can be destructive to friendships. So, third reason why it's destructive is it breeds arguments and causes trouble. This is pretty obvious. We've seen this happen, I'm sure, in our own lives, that where there is no whisper, quarreling ceases. Where there is a whisper, or quarreling commences, I'm sure. And 2 Timothy says, warns us to avoid godless chatter, because those who indulge in it will become more and more ungodly. Avoid godless chatter so you don't become more godless. It makes sense. Third one is because we make ourselves out to be unlawful judges. We're taking the place of a judge that we should not be in. James 4:11 says, do not speak evil against one another, brothers. The one who speaks evil against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. Strong words. And lastly, it's destructive because it hinders our worship. And this is very powerful to me, thinking about how much it actually does affect our ability to worship God. James, once again, speaking on this, if anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue but deceives his heart, this person's religion is pointless. He says if we bless our Lord and Father, with it being our tongue, we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. Chase last week talked about the dignity that we have in the image of God, and when we curse someone who's made in the image of God, we speak evil against someone, then yeah, we are ruining our worship. and he notes the inconsistencies with the mouth, that how could the mouth produce both blessing and cursing? It is incompatible with the Christian, right? It's uncharacteristic of the Christian, just like a salt pond can't yield fresh water or a fig tree bear olives, right? It's a paradox. It doesn't make sense for Christians to speak like this. And I'm sure we've all been in a situation where one minute we're praising God and the next we're speaking ill about a brother or sister. And he's saying, this should not be. That's not how it should be. So God takes this sin very seriously. In Matthew 12:36, Jesus says, I tell you on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. So what we say really demonstrates either positively or negatively about our faith, whether it's genuine or not. So our words are really important when it comes to our worship. And you would think it would be easy to discern what gossip is and what it isn't, but for some reason I struggle with this. I don't know about you, but where's that line, you know? So I came up with some very practical questions that we can ask ourselves in situations, both if you're considering sharing someone with something, or if you're with someone and they want to share something with you. So, first question you can think about is, what is your reason for telling me this? Why is it important for me to know, or why is it vital that this other person should know this information? Second one, where did you get the information? Is your source valid, right? Do you have all the facts? And third one, very important, have you gone directly to those involved? And I included Matthew 18:15 up there to talk about what we're to do in situations like that. That if your brother sins against you, you go privately to him or her, tell him his fault, and then if he listens, you've gained a brother or a sister. Win-win situation. The next question is, would you be comfortable sharing this if those involved were present? This is often really telling. If you imagine the person in the room with you, and you're like, oh, man, that really does change things. And then last one, thanks to my husband, he helped me think through this. And you may have heard this from him, but is your motive hopeful? And as Christians, hope is a big part of our faith, right? That nothing is ever hopeless, right? There's always hope in Christ. And so when you're considering sharing something about someone, are you being hopeful about them? Do you really want to help them in some way? You want them to grow and flourish in the Lord. And so that kind of tests the heart to see if you really have the person's best in mind. I don't know about y'all, but I find it easier to stop myself from gossiping than to stop someone else from gossiping. And I think it's because I'm more concerned about embarrassing that person or what they'll think about me if I do that. Then I'm more concerned about that than being loving toward the person they're about to talk about, which is very sad. So something that I find helpful is when you invite people to help you with something. It puts some responsibility on the other person. They'll want to care for you. So if you don't want a person to gossip with you, you can say something like, so I'm really trying to work on not gossiping, but I really need your help. So if you notice that I'm starting to talk about someone in a way that I shouldn't, will you please help me by pointing that out? And also, would you mind also refraining as well? That would really help me. Something I'm trying to work on. Does that make sense? I find that very helpful. Invitation is very powerful. Inviting your brothers and sisters to help keep our own pie holes holy, right? So we talked a lot about the destruction of words and the tongue. But let's talk about the good ways we can use our words. Words are very powerful on the flip side. They're powerful to heal, and they're powerful to encourage. And Proverbs 18:21 said, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits." So we have the choice to either poison with our words or bear great fruit with our words. So how do we combat the temptation to gossip and instead bring healing with our words? First way I think, speak less. Just shut up. That's what I tell myself, just shut up, okay? Less is more a lot of times, y'all. So be thoughtful and speak less. I think Proverbs says it a lot. And Proverbs also attributes that great wisdom, people who are really wise are those who are very careful with their speech. So when words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent. And then James, I constantly bring this to mind. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. So use your ears more. I'm sure we all heard there's a reason you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should do more listening than speaking. It does make sense. And then second one, very important. Oh, there's lots more verses for you if you're taking notes. Is to remember that we can't control our tongues. We are not able. James says that we can tame animals, but we cannot possibly tame our tongues. It is impossible. And that's because only God is the one who can change our hearts, right? Where the root is. So ask for his help. Yes. I feel like I put the wrong verses up there. I had, no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. And then this prayer, I guess I put 2 different prayers up there. Yeah. Psalm 141:3, set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth, and keep watch over the door of my lips. These are good verses to memorize in moments of temptation. And I love, as we know, the well-known song, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." So ask for God's help. Ask for the ability to control your tongue. And then next one, seek reconciliation. This is one of just God's greatest gifts to us, is the ability to reconcile with one another so that your worship does not hinder you. This is how we really protect ourselves from hindering our worship. Matthew 5:23, Jesus is teaching about this. If you are offering your gift at the altar, there remember that you have a brother who has something against you. Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. So several years ago, I was in church one Sunday morning, and we were about to take communion as a church. And I, at the time, was not in a good place with one of my good friends. I really felt hurt by her. And so I felt a lot of bitterness. There was a lot of yucky bitterness and anger in my heart. And I sensed the Spirit very strongly tapping on my heart, going, "Julia, don't you dare think about taking communion until you've dealt with this issue in your heart." Oh dear. I better do something about this. And so I got up from the very front of the sanctuary. I walked all the way back down the aisle to where she was sitting in the back and asked her if we could speak. And so we walked outside of the church and sat down, and I just confessed these feelings that I was feeling, and confessed and repented of them, and asked for her forgiveness for harboring this bitterness and anger toward her. And she forgave me, and we reconciled, prayed together, got to just rejoice in that grace of forgiveness and reconciliation. And we got to go back in the church and receive communion together. It was such a beautiful picture of the church and how we're to love each other. And also a very good reminder to me of how I really need to check my heart when I'm taking communion, doing these acts of worship. If it's not from the right place, then it's really being tainted by these icky things I've allowed in my heart. And so seek reconciliation. That's a wonderful way to avoid going down the road of gossip. And then replace the bad with the good. Here in my Bible courses, you hear me talk a lot about you can't just get rid of bad habits, because another bad habit will just swoop right in there, right? You have to actively replace the good habits, the bad with the good. Is that right? The bad. Pregnancy break.
We got it.
So let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. This word corrupting talk is like rotten fruit. And imagine just biting into a rotten apple. That's the kind of language it's talking about. That there's no place for that rotten speech. But there's a place for words that build up and strengthen one another. That words that give grace to those who hear. So the very opposite of this rotten talk is giving grace to one another. So thinking through, am I grace giving? Am I loving people around me? I have the ability to build them up. Am I doing that? Up there. Yes, and then thinking about how the tongue brings healing, right? We have the power to heal with our words. So, comparing the one whose rash words are like sword thrusts to the tongue of the wise that brings healing. We have the ability as priests to one another, right? A priesthood of believers to bring healing and encouragement with our words. And going along with what Chase was talking about last week, the ability to be selfless, the ability to consider others' needs above my own. If I am constantly doing that, then I will not slander them with my words, because I'm considering them as better than myself. And then lastly, don't shy away from speaking the truth when necessary. So, just because we're avoiding gossip and loose speech and babbling all the time, we can be really intentional with our words, and we also have a responsibility to restore people to the truth when we see our brothers and sisters stumbling. So I do think there is also the sin of omission. When you see someone stumbling, but you are lazy or don't care enough to try to restore them by speaking the truth in love, as Ephesians says. That this is the way we actually grow as a body when we are joined and held together by every joint with which it is equipped. When we're working properly as the body of Christ. And we do need each and every member of the body, each and every one of you, to grow in maturity as the body of Christ. And so, speak the truth in love. And then this wonderful verse in Colossians, that we do that by letting the word of Christ dwell richly in you. Meditate on the word of Christ. And that enables us to really teach and admonish one another in all wisdom. And if only we were walking around singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, right? It's like one lovely musical of worship with thankfulness in your hearts to God. That's actually what we should be known by. That's the kind of speech we should be known by. So, yeah, I think to close, I want to leave us with a provocative question. If the Apostle Paul wrote some wonderful epistles in our wonderful New Testament, if he were to visit the community, the Christian community at Dartmouth, what would he find? Would he find this, that he feared with the Corinthians? Would he find quarreling, jealousy, anger, hostility, slander, gossip, conceit, and disorder? I sure hope not. This is what I hope he finds, that we are people that have thrown away bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander, along with all malice, and he finds those that are kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. Let me pray to that end. Father, forgive us for being careless with our words when we have been given such great power to heal and build up, bring restoration and reconciliation, to speak thanksgiving and to sing hymns and songs to you. when we've been given mouths to worship you, and yet we use them to curse our brother or sister and to bring them down in order to make us feel better. Lord, forgive us for such a sin, and may we not take light of it. May we not turn a blind eye to it, but consider its repercussions and how it really does damage community. And may we long for the unity of the body and recognize that it's going to first start with us taming our tongues, taking control of our words. And Lord, we need your help to do that. We cannot do this ourselves. Father, come and change our hearts. Work on what is icky in there, and me and these students, Lord, and let us be a body of Christians that looks like you, Jesus. The one who was selfless with his words, the one that spoke words of love and healing. And we ask that while you do that, Lord, the rest of Dartmouth and this world would see you, would see your light, and bow down and worship you, God. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, y'all.